about the Zettlr, and people have been bringing this thing to my attention for years. Um, since I started getting into Zettelkasten, I think actually the first time when I was doing the knowledge nodes, I was doing a thing. I had my own knowledge management system. I've been working on it for like 5 years, and at the time, people heard about it on the Twitch stream about 2020 or so, and they're like, "Have you heard of Zettlr? Have you heard of Zettelkasten?" And I was like, "I don't know if it's exactly what I want." So this has been something that's been on my mind for a while, um, and I want to go ahead and review it. Um, I'm just checking out some things on stream just to make sure our stream is working. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get right into it. My Twitch stream and everybody are probably gonna like trickle in while I start to cover this, but I want to get going because I don't want to have to edit the video because I'm lazy. Um, so what is Zettelkasten? And this is the big question, right? Is it worth doing the Zettelkasten? So I have to give you the spiel about Zettelkasten before we do anything further. So Zettelkasten is this idea from Niklas Luhmann. In fact, you can go to Luhmann. There is Niklas Luhmann. And I believe is it Luhmann dot, let me go see. It's in my Zettelkasten. Yeah, he's in mine. I have an application that I made to do my own Zettelkasten from the command line, and we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about how the tool that I use might be able to be integrated with this other one or not. We're gonna evaluate all that, and I don't know. I haven't even looked at the new version, but they just released a new version of Zettlr 1.0, 3.0 on September 1st. So, and it's quoted as being the most significant change to Zettlr since the beginning, and I'm actually really curious to see if it's been influenced by many of the streams I've done about Zettelkasten and the Zet tool that I have over the last 2 years. It was actually the impetus behind the creation of Pagan, which is my version of the parsing expression grammar. Hey, Sam. Um, and so we're actually in video mode right now. So if anybody comes on in, we are talking about this only Zettlr right now, and we're going to be talking uniquely about this for about the next hour. So if you have other topics and you want to talk about, we're going to have to skip those for now. So if you go to lumen.surge.sh, which is the only place I know of to actually click on and get the actual writing of Niklas Luhmann, you can go do the research on this dude. There is a lot of bad information about Zettelkasten out there. I'm just going to tell you right now. There's a book or two that capitalizes on the idea of Zettelkasten and then doesn't even follow it. It's almost as if they haven't even read this. And it gets me very upset because they've released things saying that they're following the Zettelkasten method, but they've made several changes to the overall base idea that clearly demonstrate that they have no knowledge of how the actual Zettelkasten was used. They'd spent like 0% time researching it. And it makes me very angry because if you're going to sell a book about the Zettelkasten method, number one, you shouldn't just name drop Niklas Luhmann. You should actually cite the guy and refer to his information about how to do it. And some of these books, I'm not going to call them out, and tools, they don't do that. They don't do that. They present themselves as being the authority on what Zettelkasten is without even referencing Niklas Luhmann, who fucking invented it. Okay, one F-bomb. I'm sorry. That's the only one. So if you want to actually read what the method is and you want to study it, I suggest you watch the video from Niklas Luhmann where he talks about it on YouTube and where you come over here and you read this, okay? And you can decide for yourself what things you want to put in addition to that using modern technology. So a lot of these tools that are out there, they've taken extreme liberties because of the modern digital age and thrown out some of the base ideas that allowed the Zettelkasten to work on paper. And in my system, I have very, very strictly observed paper So, like my unique identifiers are integers. They're integers that increment. They're not some computer generated UUID, which is totally stupid, and Lumen would say so. Um, so anyway, so if you want to get the whole account of what this is and what the Zettelkasten method is, I strongly advise you to go read Nicholas Luhmann himself describe it. Okay, so we got that out of the way. Now, once you've read this and you understand what it is, and maybe you're interested in practicing it, then you're going to get inundated with all of the different tools that are out there that are to do it. Now, normally my advice at this moment is make your own system. That means, and for a long time I was actually maintaining a paper system in addition to one online, because I could carry a notebook around with me while I would go on hikes and stuff. I could just write in my notebook, which is always easier than transcribing to a phone, although I could see myself doing that as well. But I always had my notebook, and then sometimes I would take those paper Zettles, and I would Zettel means slip of paper, by the way. It doesn't mean index card. And he actually specifically says paper is better in this document. So then I would take those things and we would collect those notes together, and I would put those into my digital version if I was going to do it. So my tool suffers from the only way to search it is from the command line. It's very command line centric. It doesn't have it does have a website that goes with it. So I mean, you guys probably know this about me, but if you go to my was it Zet dot? There it is. So here's like the Zettel I wrote about when my teeth got knocked out. This is not really a Zettel. This is more of a blog. So I do gray the lines a little bit there, but I'm just showing you my kind of cheap stuff. It's very fast, and it's based entirely on a super simple model of writing to just basic markdown. So here's my markdown. This is the equivalent of an index card, right? So if I were going to have an index card, I would write that there, and I believe it or not, I actually wrote a bunch of my own things that I felt for a long time I did not allow for myself. I didn't allow extra headings because it makes it more complicated. Another thing that I've been doing is I've been always putting headings on the first line so that they can easily be grepped from the first line. And that actually, I've been very against front matter, which I know Zettlr has, and we're going to talk about that. I'm going to revisit that. And the bottom line is actually being able to just save your documents as a collection of documents here that are all indexed by number. Makes them so that when they're rendered as HTML, they look really good. You don't have to do anything special. In fact, GitHub automatically does it for you. You don't even have to run it through an engine. It just does it. And GitHub actually also saves all of my Zettelkasten to the Arctic archive, whenever they do that, every 5 years or so. So, so that is why I think it's really good to have a Zet. And in the beginner boost in December, we're going to be talking a lot. We talk about it at the beginning of the beginner boost about how to take notes with Markdown, which everybody should do. But then how do you format the notes? How do you break out the content? How do you organize the content? And that gets into the Zettelkasten approach. And at this point, I've been focused on this for more than 10 years. And I can tell you that the Zettelkasten approach is by far the most sustainable. It's the most valid. It's the most German, if you will. In fact, Zettlr was invented by a German, and it's maintained by a German and a Swedish group, which I think is interesting because they tend to be more methodical about how they approach things, in my opinion. And and I happen to be both German and Swiss, and my wife's German. So I'm super excited to go looking into Zettlr. So. But I wanted to give you just a quick overview of where I'm coming from so that when I make a judgment about Zettlr, which I have decided not to use until now, we are not going to talk about the big gorillas in the room. Obsidian, for example, is absolute trash. I cannot recommend more strongly that you stay away from Obsidian. It's proprietary. It's cloud-based. It doesn't let you have control over your data. It doesn't, I don't want to make an entire Obsidian sucks video. But when I looked at Zettlr this morning, Somebody recommended it to me again because of the 3.0 release, and I started to look at this new release, and it really kind of piqued my interest. So I'm kind of hopeful that I can make my method jive, I guess, with Zettlr. And let's go through and just talk about Zettlr straight up. So let's go to the web page, and this is absolutely going to YouTube. Yep. I'm streaming to 5 platforms right now, including YouTube. So if you want to watch over there, you can. I'm making a video just about that multi-streaming stuff. All right, so this is Zettlr.com, Zettlr.com. Right away, the first thing that just rubs me the wrong way is front matter. I think front matter is one of the worst inventions ever. And I'm going to blame Tom for this. Tom is actually something of an acquaintance. I don't hang out with him or anything, but I made the logo for the Tamil language, Tom's markdown language. I actually made the logo for that. And Tom invented, what do I want to call it? The one of the very first markdown systems that was on GitHub. It was called Jekyll. So Jekyll is, I think you could probably safely credit Jekyll as being the first markdown-based documentation static site generator, period. And that came from Tom, who also made GitHub and then sold it and everything. And then he went on to do, awesome things, other awesome things, including invention of Tamil. But I think one of the biggest mistakes that Tom made was mixing metadata with data. And if you know anything about IT and SMTP mail and all of this stuff, right? So I'm going to get technical here for a bit, but most of the time when you have metadata mixed with the data, you get problems, right? Because now you have 2 different syntaxes to deal with, which means you've minimally got to parse the file twice, right? That means that whether you do it by automation or just in reading it, you've got to split that thing. It's really not one document anymore. It's 2 documents combined into one, right? And in the case of SMTP mail, they've actually made it multi-part, so you can have actually multiple documents all in one stream of data, one file. And SendMail, which is, has been the premier mail handling tool for years. I was a SendMail administrator for a long time, and it actually cuts that. In order to index all the mail, it actually chops all the email in 2, and it separates out the metadata, and it separates out that other data, the actual body of the email, into another file, and then it associates them by ID. And the reason for that is because putting metadata in the data always causes problems, always. Because now you can't search the data. Because the data, unless you create your own index, the data is now fundamentally mixed into the metadata. Let me give you another example. Look at here. See how it says title, welcome to Zettlr? And then it also puts the title as the first header as well? That redundancy, I struggled with that for years. I was like, I don't really need those 2 things there. I need one or the other, right? So, this has driven me absolutely bonkers bananas. I've actually created a method for listing keywords as a part of the markdown, so that it was so that the metadata was part of the data, and it was a special section that you could parse out. I don't use that anymore, and I have concluded that the data is data. Let the data speak for itself. I mean, you see these recommendations from Google and YouTube and everything when you're talking about writing descriptions, and people try to game the algorithm and all this jazz, and ultimately they end up coming down to saying, you know what, just write about the video, and we'll do the rest. And the way AI is going, putting metadata in the data is going to screw up AI, because it's not going to be able to distinguish between the metadata and the other data unless people go through and clean up all the data anyway. So I hate front matter. I've always hated it. Not to mention, I don't like the idea of keywords and tagging either. I don't. You know why? Because as soon as you start doing keywords and tagging and stuff like that, now you've got a system that can be gamed. People can put keywords on. Some people do this all the time. They'll put keywords in the metadata and the meta tags in HTML, for example, that has nothing to do with the data. Let the data be the data. And in the age of AI and data crunching and big data, the data is the data. The data is the data. You want a tag? Fine. Give the data a tag after you've crunched the data and you've determined through AI that that is actually about what it's about. And if you want some special keyword to be included, if you're not using the keywords in the data, then it's really not about that data. So maybe you should write the data so that it has that keyword in there instead of writing some other thing. And another thing too about knowledge organization, categories never work. Let me submit to you kingdom, phylum, species, that kind of thing, right? You got the platypus. It makes no sense. It violates all of the categories, right? Anytime people create hierarchical categories, they fall on their face. When you start to get deeply nested directories, you're like, okay, does this go under here? Does this go under here? I mean, file systems are constantly having problems with this. Is why they invented symbolic and hard links. This is why we have shortcuts, because sometimes you need to put something under a directory that doesn't really belong in that directory. It belongs in like 5 of those directories. And what would have worked better is a system of tagging where you could have said, okay, all these things are tagged the same thing, right? So even though I'm not a fan of keywords, tagging in order to group things together is a better way of organizing knowledge and data. It really is. But the better way than all of that is to just have the data and be able to query the data and to be search centric. And I talk about this in the beginner boost. I think the best way to manage your knowledge and to do everything, frankly, including research, just-in-time research in order to do your job in tech and knowledge management, as a knowledge worker, you need to get good with searching. And that means searching your own computer immediately I can't tell you how to get to system settings on any particular thing, but I get there right away. Why? Because I'm using search-centric approach to computing, which means I know how to pull up the search bar in every single device that I use ever. And so I can pull up the search bar, I can do ChatGPT, I can search from the command line on the internet. The point being, search-centric approach to knowledge management is always going to be better. And then you're going to get the number of hits versus the number of non-hits, and you don't have to deal with keywords, you don't have to deal with categories. You can focus on producing knowledge and instead of organizing that knowledge. And then when it comes time to create a publication for consumption, I think it's important to mention that Zettelkasten is not itself a publication method, right? I kind of use it as that, and it's very messy. It's more of a note-taking thing. And one of the reasons I put my Zet out there, and I've never actually made another site just for publications, first of all, is because I'm too lazy. I would rather have people just get insight into my brain as it is working while it's working, so they can read it with, very organically as it's happening, so they can have that access to that information immediately, rather than wait around for me to produce some really highly polished blog or YouTube video and put it out. And if you know me, you know that I'm a long form kind of style guy. I would rather have people be able to go through the content and search it, and to have the most recent content, even if it means that I don't spend a lot of time editing the content. And I think the more people who have something to say, who discover this, will provide the world with better information, even though the people consuming that information are going to have to go through a little bit more work to understand it, to fast forward through it and stuff like that. Why? Because the more likely you are to hear from somebody, the less likely you are to want to hear what they have to say. The most polished, let me give you an example, the most polished technical videos in all of YouTube suck. They are the worst technical videos of all. They're immediately out of date. They're done by people who are trying to sell you something instead of actually using it in the industry. Almost all of them, and I could name names, I'm not going to. But the people who spend, they make their crazy little thumbnails and they do all this stuff. Every second that they spend editing and creating all that crazy content takes them away from being an authority, because they are not doing it, because they're too busy pumping up their YouTube video or whatever. And this goes for anything. So like the classical Spanish guitarist that I was IRL streaming the other day, he's the one who's like, well, I don't have a website and I haven't kept it up. And I think, I said, you know what? That's not a problem. You know why? Because you're the best at what you do. Look at how good your guitaring is. And he's like, you know what? That's true. I spend all my time writing guitar. People who are good don't spend time on social media and YouTube. And that goes for me. There's people that are way better than me. There's people that are like 10 times better than me, and I don't even edit my videos. So I have tried to hit that happy medium where I talk. How much? I've already been talking for how long? I've already been talking for 20 minutes. Have I said anything about Zettlr? A little bit. But I haven't. I'm not going to edit this video, and you're going to get it very raw, and you're going to get the real me, and you're going to get the authentic me. The point is, I do believe, I personally believe there's a middle ground in which we could start encouraging experts to produce content that would change the world, frankly, because these are the authorities. If we could get the authorities to start talking about this stuff and they're actually doing the work, as opposed who are so busy doing that and taking care of the family and stuff, they don't produce any content at all. But if we can get more of them to just go out there without editing and kind of be messy about it, and lower the bar to entry for this, self-broadcasting, so much the better. And that's what a Zettelkasten is. Hey, how's that? There's a segue. That's why I use a Zettelkasten and not a blog. People ask me, well, do you have a blog? And they no, but I got a Zettelkasten. I'm like, well, what's the difference? Well, Zettelkasten's got like random ranting. It's unedited. It doesn't have any advertising. It's messy. It's messy as shit. And then when and if I ever actually get around to making a book, and that's really the point of Zettelkasten. So Nicholas Luhmann, the reason everybody cares about him is because he produced 70 books about sociology and stuff like that during his time as a professor. And he used his Zettelkasten method to do that. So he would, and this was, pre-internet, but it kind of carried into the internet age. And he would meticulously write all these things in these notes and stuff. And anytime he would have an idea, he just without really editing it or stifling the idea, he would capture the idea really quickly, and then he would put it aside. And it allowed him to kind of dump his brain. It was Zettelkastens are sometimes called a second brain. They're the place that you don't have enough storage in your brain, and as you age like me, you start to forget everything, right? So I can go in my Zettelkasten any time, and I can just search. I just did it, right? Luhmann, it automatically does search terms, right? So if I wanted to do Zettelkasten, you can see here's all my Zettelkasten stuff. Isolated Zettelkasten repos, format Zettelkasten, Zettel repos might be a hacker's best friend, Zettelkasten video link. So I can immediately, and I wrote this myself and go, but you can make your own. Okay, so let's go. The idea is that you have a second brain, and then you can decide if you want to let other people see your second brain. Some people will blog in this way. They'll blog in this way, and their blogs are messy and everything. And then the problem with making it a blog is that as soon as you use the word blog, that kind of elevates the expectation in everybody's mind. They want it to be, oh, you have a typo in your blog, I'm going to open an issue. Or, oh, you must be a horrible writer because, you have this grammatically incorrect paragraph here or whatever. You do not want to spend a lot of time in the editing mental place while you're doing Zettelkasten. The whole idea is to just dump. It's just to dump your ideas and your immediate impressions and to go back and be able to find those things and to constantly revise them. And then you go back later. The idea, I don't do this, but the idea is that when it gets time to make publications like a book or whatever, a blog, you go to your notes in your Zettelkasten, you pull them together in a nice coherent way, and then you turn that into something that's consumable. So whether it be a fancy blog or an article that you're writing for Wired magazine or whatever it is, you can turn that into something better. Or maybe you want to make an actual video that, has a beginning and an end and a middle, and it's like, organized and stuff, right? So that's the idea behind a Zettelkasten, and it's kind of the knowledge base and the brain dump. And so that's what we have. So going into that, the first impression I have of this is they haven't got rid of front matter, and I'm never going to convince the markdown world that front matter is stupid. It's just not happening. There's too many people that think it's a good idea, and I really don't. I think if you're going to have a Zettel with front matter, it is faster to maintain front matter inside of the Zettel, so you don't have to have two separate files, which is the proper way to do metadata, is to put it in its own file. And in my case, I actually had an iteration of my system that at one point had .meta, and so you would have a readme.md file for each Zettel, and then you would have a .meta, and the meta file will contain these keywords and stuff, right? But it was a separate file, and therefore it would still show up in a grep, but it wouldn't necessarily pollute the markdown data. So I have mixed feelings about YAML front matter right off the bat, but I could be convinced. Why am I even looking at this? Well, I'm looking at this because people ask me all the time, about the different tools to do Zettelkasten, and I always tell them make your own. But if you can't make your own, and you just want to get going with your stuff, you might want to try one of these tools, and I believe Zettlr is one of them. Another big advantage right off the bat for Zettlr is that it is available for Linux and Mac and Windows. It is 100% free and open source. That has no, I mean, we're going to read this here. It has no tie-ins to some secret agenda where they're trying to build in dependencies, which Obsidian definitely has. So let's keep going. So this is an Electron app. My biggest complaint about it being an Electron app is, and I actually have it here. Let me start it up. Here it is running. This is it running as an Electron app. And my biggest problem with it being an Electron app is, what if I don't want to do Electron? Now, I gotta tell you, there are some things about this that are very nice. Everybody who knows me know I'm a terminal guy, but when it comes to like mathematical references and things like that, and we're gonna go to the LaTeX guide. This is kind of nice to have a preview of it, right? Especially if you're trying to kind of take it to the next level and make it kind of readable. So that is something we're going to be looking at. I don't know if it has plugins or not. Even discussed it with some of your former researchers. The only thing they miss is the auto citation and switching citation styles from ADA to IE. It's for the one that I've been doing. Maluba, we should talk about that. I think we should talk about that. There's a couple of comments coming in the chat that are very interesting. I think those are still visible. You guys have been seeing the chat, yeah? Or no? I turned it off. Did I turn the chat? The chat's been on, yeah? Okay, so the people who are watching this video, I'm really sorry. I'm not responding to the chat that's been showing up on the screen. And I maybe I'll go back through and read it. If I were to try to read every chat message as it came in, I would go crazy. So, but they have been on the screen apparently, so hopefully they've been good. YouTubers, you're like, why isn't he answering the chat? That's why. Okay, so this does have an Electron thing. Privacy first. This is something I really, really love about Zettlr. Zettlr is focused on you maintaining your own copy. And when I made the knowledge exchange grid, architected all of that stuff, I'm since kind of putting that aside because I believe AI is going to really influence data management on the entire internet. It's more important to focus on models that will index data in whatever form. So creating a standard format for the data for the knowledge net, as I called it, is less important than creating systems that can index any data whatsoever, and that becomes more of an AI approach. So that's one of the reasons that I don't spend a lot of time with the knowledge exchange grid lately. Zettlr is privacy first. There is no forced cloud synchronization, and all files stay on your computer. One of the things I like about this is, so I don't know this, but I think that by doing this, I can actually just keep my terminal and my Vim sessions and all that, and I can actually edit using that, or I can pull up these workspaces, as they're called, with the Electron app, right? Which normally I would not do, but I could if I wanted. From idea to publication, manage all your writing projects from one app. This is really, really interesting to me. So the thing that my Zet tool has never had, and I started to get there, was the idea of writing a book. In fact, I started creating Zettel types, knowledge nodes, as I call them, not Zettels. There's a Zettel is one type of a knowledge node is like one node in the knowledge network within your system, right? And in my stuff. And the knowledge node itself, there were different types of knowledge nodes in my system, and the main one being a Zettel, which is just a node, right? But I made an entire system for creating knowledge nodes that were compositions of other Zettels, right, of other knowledge. And that initially sounds like a great idea. It's the idea of applying software composition to writing, which is what Scrivener uses, if you know that, and a number of other tools for novel writing and things. And Zettelkasten is largely written on that. But one of the downsides of that is that when you do that for composition, that means you're kind of making a jump over to the thing where, okay, it's no longer just a note now, it's actually content. And then the idea of creating another knowledge type that is essentially kind of like if you're a software developer, you'd have one thing that's made out of composed of these other things, and then you would link them all in, right? And I created a method for linking those. That's what led to the parsing, expression, grammar notation libraries and language that I've written, so that I could do my own parsing. And to tell you the truth, I abandoned that because I was like, no, Zettelkasten is for note taking. It's not for publication. Zettelkasten, above all, Lumen, back to Lumen again. Back to Lumen. Lumen said Zettelkasten is for note-taking and knowledge management and second brain kind of things. It's not for publication. It's not for static site generation. It's not for that. If you do those things, you're just producing a webified or a PDF version of your non-publication, which is, and so, but I am still intrigued by the idea of taking this, a bunch of messy notes and converting them into a publication. If I can use the same system for that, and I can actually kind of manage, I can have maybe some Zettls or some things that are a little bit more baked than the normal note-taking thing, and maybe they have a higher level of quality, and then I can compose those together in the same tool. That's kind of consistent with where I was going with my own publishing. And that's actually what stopped my book publishing is I was tweaking my KEG tool, my Zet tool, to do publishing. And I was going to write my book in Markdown using this method. So this is very intriguing to me. Manage all your writing projects in one app from the initial idea. And I happen to know, because I looked ahead, there's really extensive support for LaTeX. I know people pronounce it differently. That's how I pronounce it, LaTeX. Already typeset in the appropriate template. Okay, so it has templating. It also has snippets with its own snippet language, which I really don't like. One of the reasons I don't like it is I really wanted to use Go templating, which is way better than any other templating engine I've ever seen. First class citation support. So actually, Maluba already mentioned this, and this is where things kind of get interesting. Can someone please someone please, like, of course the spammers would hit me. Do we have a mod who can help with the spammers? Thank you. Yeah. So the snippets in here are phenomenal. We'll get there, but Maluba already mentioned citation support. So I'm going to jump ahead here and talk about this. So Zettlr is the premier tool used by researchers because it has first-class citation support. Now, I don't really care about citation support because, let's face it, I'm not making academic writing. I actually am kind of anti-academic writing. I'm more of just a note guy, and if you don't have citations, forget about any kind of formal writing. Period. And so this tool, which has been around since 2015, that's when they first started. It has first-class support for citations, which is going to make all the academic writers extremely happy. And so if I can get in line with a tool that's really popular with researchers and formal writers and stuff like that, that is also open, that is also supported on Linux, that also has most of the open source standards such as Markdown inside of it, I might be able to just tweak my own expectations to use this tool. So that's why I'm even reviewing it at all. Otherwise, I would just throw it out. So here it says efficiency, speed, and productivity. What is? How do I organize my notes? We already talked about that. I don't have to talk about that more. Publish, not perish. This is true. Discover the. Oh my God! I'm so sorry for the flashbang. Discover the user interface. I already showed you the dark version of this, so we'll keep going. Voices from the community. Associate Professor of Journalism, University of Massachusetts, Amherst. I had a hectic pandemic thing where I squeezed research wherever I could, ended up with piles of notes. Zettlr has been the indispensable tool. The fact that this person did not have a note-taking strategy during the pandemic and was a professor at the same time makes me very worried. How did you get to be a professor without having a better knowledge management situation going on? Seriously, I'm How did you make it all the way to becoming an associate professor of journalism without already having a system for organizing your notes? I'm sorry. I have nothing against Joshua. I'm sure they're probably a wonderful person, but I'm like, you made it all the way through college, and then you made it in journalism, and then you still didn't have a system for organizing your notes. And then you discovered it as you were an associate professor. Okay. I mean, that you should have had that problem like as a freshman in college, if not a senior in high school. Do you know what I mean? You should have like gone all. Okay, so here we go. Investigative journalists of San Francisco. Okay, we'll give them more latitude because maybe they didn't know about these kind of things. I don't know. Zettlr makes everything about writing easier. UI is simple and cluttered. When I mark sections as a note, Zettlr uses them to build an outline for me. That is kind of cool. I'm looking forward to that. Quotation marks and parentheses are automatically text wrapped. Okay, hotkeys give me quick access to critical functions, comments. I can hyperlink to other thing. This is a very non-technical user, and I think that's fantastic. I think one of the things that I like most about Zettlr is it's not. I mean, the whole Zettel thing that I did, is based on my propensity to use the terminal. But if we're going to have a best-of-breed tool for dealing with Zettelkasten, it's going to need to address the needs of people who are non-technical. People who, in other words, it should be able to grow with people who are technical, but people who are non-technical need to be able to just walk in and be productive. And so that specific part of this is a huge plus. It's a huge benefit because I help beginners all the time. I help technical and non-technical people. I consider myself a journalist, a culture journalist. And I want to actually, to tell you the truth, I actually want to start creating official culture journalism publications that are printed in other and sell them like as a writer. It's actually something that I've recently been considering with a bunch more of this outdoor IRL streaming I've been doing. I've been doing a lot of interviews. I've been doing a lot of like write pieces, as they'd be called. And I personally, as a writer, I really love it. I really love writing, and I would like to be able to move my hobby into something that makes me a little bit of money. And if that means I can become a culture journalist and I can actually be published, and I can use a tool that plays nice with everybody else, that's a huge win for me because I don't want to spend a lot of time making a system if there's already a system that people are using for that. And so the fact that that both of this associate professor of journalism and this investigative journalist are already using this tool to generate publications and pieces for which they are paid is a huge plus for me because then I don't have to think about it. I can let the people who are managing Zettlr do that, and I can go get on my bike and go interview random homeless people on the street or high-end artists at the gallery or whoever I end up running into or the scoutmaster for Troop 19 at their 150-year anniversary. I absolutely live for culture journalism. I would rather spend time doing that. I've said this a million times. I consider myself a writer, a tour guide, and a journalist more than a technologist. I got into technology to pay the bills, but deep down, I'm a writer. And this is kind of getting me excited because maybe I can focus on writing. Hell, I might even be able to make money at writing. Oh my God. The idea that I might even, in my older age, I might actually be able to support myself with a writing career just makes me have flutters and heart palpitations. I'm like so excited by the possibility. And honestly, Zettlr is getting a big boost here because in my mind, because I'm associating it with freedom, the freedom to start writing, the freedom to publish and not have, not perish, publish, not perish, right? So if I can focus on publishing really great content and creating really great written content, then I don't have to write tools, and so that's a big thing that's driving me. Yeah. Now we already talked about Obsidian. Vim Motions, people who suggest that you should use Vim Motions don't understand Vim. The greatest power of Vim is the filter command. It has nothing to do with using H, J, K, and L for navigation. Everybody who always tells me that this and such tool have Vim navigation don't understand Vim, or not at least the way I use Vim, the primary advantage of using Vim. I could give a shit about navigation if I've got a mouse and a graphic tool. I don't care about that. I don't care about that navigation. I'm going to be searching through the document anyway and finding the right word instead of doing any kind of M navigation with my leaving the keyboard. And by the way, if I have a GUI tool, I'm going to be using the mouse all the way. What I want is I want to be able to pull in source code and filters and stuff like that from the command line. That's why I use Vim. And I am not opposed to a graphic editor at all, especially for writing. When it comes to writing, I mean, the standard tool for writing for years has been Microsoft for novel writing. I know that for a fact because my ex-wife was a novel writer, and Scrivener. And I started using Scrivener. I actually paid for it. It's a paid product. It's one of the #1 products for doing official publications, all kinds of not technical books, nonfiction, and everything. It's actually called Scrivener. Scrivener, and it's a fantastic tool. It's worth the money. It's definitely worth the money. But it is a highly proprietary tool, which can also do the other stuff. The fact that people are producing publications with Zettlr and it's free, that's, Typora is another one. There's a bunch of them. This is not a full review of all the different ways all the different writing tools out there. That's not what this is. We're just going to stick with Zettlr. Yeah, you like Scrivener? I love Scrivener. I do. Okay, I'm on point on the Vim thing. Nice, thank you. Zettlr is free and open source software. This means your notes stay where you put them. This is not true for Obsidian. This is also not true for Scrivener. So Scrivener is a great tool, but it stores it in a format that's a highly proprietary and can't be easily saved on GitHub. So, this is a big win. No forced cloud synchronization, no hidden costs, no strings attached. This is a direct dig at Obsidian. They almost are saying like Obsidian here, but they didn't. That's a direct dig at Obsidian. Additionally, Zettlr fully respects your privacy, no telemetry, no AB. That's also a dig at Obsidian, and no experiments. The only time Zettlr connects to an internet, that should be a capital I, my friends, is to check for updates. And if you want to, you can even disable that. All right, so I really, really like that about Zettlr. Zettlr is your reference manager. So this is where Scrivener really, really shines. But even Scrivener is not really good at doing highly academic writing. And once again, I get the impression that the Zettlr community, the people that are pushing it and using it, are research people that are in the academic community. And I mean, they have very specific demands when it comes to publications. I would rather have the very strict and pedantic research community using a tool that I can then dumb down to do creative writing or to do, blogging or other things like that, than the opposite, right? The opposite of that would be to use a tool that's too simplistic to actually allow researchers and academic writers to flourish. And I would rather use a tool that's overly designed to cater to researchers and their specific requirements because they are so great. Their requirements are so high. So if I can use that tool and then simplify it for my usage, so much the better. I know that if I want to get academic published and all that stuff, that I can take it up a notch, and we're going to get there. Any academic publishing today automatically implies that it has LaTeX support built in. And if you don't know what LaTeX is, you're just going to have to go research it. That's why Pandoc has been so great for so long. I still love Pandoc. I think Pandoc is one of the greatest tools out there. It also caters to researchers in particular. I do find it. I mean, Pandoc has got its own template language, and now Zettlr's got its own template language. And so we're going to get to the snippets thing. That part's going to make me a little uncomfortable because as soon as you start adding proprietary extensions, like snippets with their own template syntax, now you've got to make a decision about who has the best templating. Right? And Golang, by the way, has by far the best templating ever created because you can actually make plugins for the templates doing that. And they have their own. It's very shell-like. We're going to show you in a bit. And then you got Pandoc, it's got its own. And then you got Mustache, and you got the stuff that people use in Hugo, and you got there's just, as soon as you start going down the templating rabbit hole, things get really messy. And so we're gonna evaluate that as we get going into this. I already have been using that. Nobody writes in a vacuum. We are embedded in various workflows. Our colleagues and employers use many different tools, and they have different approaches to what they want to collaborate. Do you work at a university? Are your colleagues use Word? Do you use a language tool for grammar checking? Zettlr makes it easy to integrate into whatever work environment you're in. I love that. That is really, really good. Tailor your experience from bare metal to rich text. Zettlr will decide how you can look at it. LaTeX math equations and mermaid charts are rendered on the spot. This is standard. Okay. Mermaid charts in LaTeX have been. It's funny because I was just going to add mermaid support to my keg stuff. LaTeX math equations have been a part of my standard since the dawn of time. There is no standard for math equations other than LaTeX. It is literally the language of math in publishing, and it is overwhelmingly the standard. This includes KTech and all of the other variations of math. It doesn't stop there. Zettlr lets you tweak every pixel of the app with large amounts of settings you control. You can use custom CSS, which is nice. If you don't like the look and feel of it, it's because it's all Electron. I don't like Electron, but doesn't matter. So here we go. This is 100% LaTeX. You see this? Document font features, font specs, allows you to modify use of your headings and look and feel. So what they've done is they've created their own LaTeX libraries for document publishing, which I don't have words for how awesome that is. This is so stinking awesome. If you work in STEM, which is science, technology, what is the E for? Electronics and math. What is the E in STEM? It's sometimes STEAM and the A is art. Science, technology, E and M. Engineering. Oh, there you go. Oh, look. Look, they have a highlighted thing. Engineering. Of course it's engineering. Derp. I feel stupid. See, this is I'm not editing that out of my video. You get to see all of my mistakes. If you work in STEM, most conferences require you to submit PDFs using a template. If you work in the social sciences and humanities, journals have templates too. The situation was powered by what? What is powerful? What? It's using Pandoc. Oh my God, it's actually using Pandoc. So Pandoc is the industry standard for publishing in academia. And the fact that it's leveraging Pandoc just makes me all the more happy. It's free. Yeah, it's 100% free. You can export any paper with a template just one click. Simply create a new profile, add a template, click export. If you need a quick presentation at a conference, Zettlr can give you covered. It's be it Beamer, Reveal.js, PowerPoint. See, this really, really, really makes me happy. So you could take a couple of your notes and maybe polish up those notes a little bit better and turn the notes immediately into slides in PowerPoint or something. That's by the way, that support is all coming from Pandoc. I know that Pandoc has had that forever. What is Pandoc? So Pandoc is this tool for converting one document to another. In fact, one of the things I like about Pandoc is that it has a simplified document model. In fact, I built all of Pagan and Rat, my packrat parser, based on the concepts of Pandoc, but in a simplified way so that it's not as heavy, and it's a little bit, it's better, bottom line. So I'm really into parsing, in case you're wondering. I really geek out on writing parsers and stuff like that. And around Christmas time, maybe I'll end up starting to do some of that stuff, but we'll see. So anyway, you can work up your journal submissions by using LaTeX, which you would have to do anyway. This is stuff that you might, groan about it, but you have to do it. You can't write an academic paper these days without some sort of LaTeX template involved. I mean, you can, but it almost always they do this because there's so much mathematical stuff going on already in the papers. And in the age of AI, you're definitely going to have some of that. So to get that, it's not like you can use some kind of graphic editor and do it. The standard language you need to learn for that is LaTeX already. So you might as well just learn the LaTeX for integrating the template for the document format that you're targeting. So that's really good. That means it's in junk. Automate the boring stuff. So here comes the snippets. As you can see, the snippets actually use a sort of shell-like syntax, which initially appeals to me. I got to tell you, it does kind of appeal to me. Um, their templating format is very, very simple. I don't believe this is based on Pandoc, which I find interesting because I'm kind of wondering how much support for Pandoc it has. Pandoc has got a full templating system already. So, and then they have their templating on top of that. So that does make kind of, a problem there. Um, and what else? So it does have snippets and then it has a Zettelkasten methodology. You can read all about that. All right, so we've downloaded it. Zettlr trusted by now. This I got to tell you, usually people will put all the things, all the support from everybody. This is 2017. So Hendrik from 2017, 2023. I'd actually would really love to talk to Hendrik, and maybe in a podcast or something like that at some point. So after I go through this and I kind of learn it, if I fall in love with it, maybe we'll actually get Hendrik on a podcast. And I'll put an invite out there to talk to them officially, and we'll do a little interview about Zettlr, and we would make a very short form video if that becomes a thing. It wouldn't be this long form interview or this long form review that I'm doing right now. And so I love this. Developed with love between Sweden and Germany. When I saw that, I was on board immediately, almost immediately. My ancestors are from Sweden. My wife's German. So I was like, hey, that should not matter. I know, but it did. It did. It did. So look at all these universities that are using it. I mean, NC State included. So a lot of really substantial universities, including a lot of German and Swiss universities, have decided that this is the tool that they're going to use. I think it's kind of interesting that so many of these universities are international, and then out of nowhere you have NC State, University of Michigan, NC State. So I thought that was kind of interesting because NC State's one of these like unsung universities here in America that actually is pretty damn good. University of Chicago, of course, is good too. So I'm sure this list is growing. What I don't know is what came was new in 3. So why am I doing it now? So 3.0 is released. Let's actually spend a moment reading this blog. After 14 months of intensive development and testing, we're proud to present the biggest update in history of Zettlr. Read everything you want to know about here. So I'm going to summarize this because I actually did evaluate Zettlr 3 years ago. And because of a long since stable, 2.3 is more than a year old. Zettlr 3.0 is really a giant leap. Let's understand what that means. Present an entirely new icon for Windows and Linux. I don't even remember them having Linux support before, but I could have that wrong. Small changes. Okay, the road behind us. All right, let's see here. I'm going to just go ahead and read this. Oh, hi.
I am about to leave.
Okay, bye.
I realize I can't.
You're on stream.
No, I can't take my potato salad because I have to go do the errands and it'll get hot in the car.
Can I still eat my potato salad?
Yours, but leave mine. Mine's the round one.
You're the round one.
You're the square one.
All right, does everybody remember that? Don't eat Doris's round potato salad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. Sam, go out. Sam, I guess you can stay. That's fine. I don't care. All right, we're back to our review. This is why, the long form video with random interruptions by my wife, which I love. She looks really cute today, too. I like your shirt. Where'd you get the shirt? Is that a new shirt?
No, I've worn it a million times.
Oh, all right.
I don't remember.
Well, it looks cute. I'm looking forward to potato salad. I'm going to go get some here pretty soon.
That mayonnaise is weird.
I love the weird mayonnaise.
Do you?
Yeah.
It's like European mayonnaise.
Lude, I'll just finish the mayonnaise. You don't even have to worry about it. Buy a new mayonnaise and I'll do that one. All right. You weren't counting on that in the Zettlr review, were you? Okay, here we go. So when 2.3 was released, we already had a big vision of where the journey should go. Shortly before 2.3, the main component of the app, the Code Mirror editor, has released an all-new version that radically changed everything, so we decided this was the best time to fully rework it. I'm scanning. Over the past 13 contributors have made 1,300 commits. Wow. It's got a good community behind it. Is our community Quantum leap forward. Okay, so tell us how it's a quantum leap forward. I get it. At a glance, first, which is sort of split view. How is that a big deal? Multiple main windows, pinned tabs, status bar. So it looks like a bunch of like graphic changes. Language tool integration, I could get behind that. So that's so you can check your grammar and spell checking. That by itself is pretty good. I already get that in Vim, so not that big a deal, but that's a big deal, especially if you're gonna make your writing into a publication, having that's a real big deal. I would have expected that to already be there though. Massively increase the power of the importing and exporting system. Okay, that would be my other biggest complaint. So I've been using MKDocs for things at work and pushing it and everything. And I took my Zettelkasten with like 3,000 nodes in it, and I ran it through MKDocs, and it took 12 minutes to generate. So anytime I make a change to any paragraph in MKDocs, it takes 8 to 10 to 12 minutes to re-render the whole thing because it's totally brain dead. So reading that they've given some thought to the importing and exporting system is pretty good. That's pretty good. Overleaf on steroids, yeah. This allows us for the first time to create custom profiles, export any format you can dream of, including Beamer, slides, and reveal. This is really big because this means that I'm really looking forward to that part, because one of the target goals that I have is writing the book, right? So I've got 5 or 6 books that I've been working on for some time. Anybody knows. If you search for books, eventual courses, books to complete by end of 2023, that ain't happening. Tap the keg, terminal velocity, go bonsai. So I have a bunch of books that I've been wanting to do, and as I said, I was working on keg to my Zettelkasten tool to like do that. But if I can already do it because there's already a tool that exists, and I just need to massage my data into a format that Zettlr would understand. The really great thing about this is that I should be able to like make running updates to it, and I really, really hope that the underlying content can still be kept in a GitHub repo. I don't know that yet. And then the book that comes from that content, that's composed from that content, can be updated on the fly, so that I can make GitHub releases that include PDFs of my book in the release, right? So you can click on the release and go get the latest release of the book. Every time there's a change, I can go ahead and export and maybe even automate that step, and then have that show up as a book in my release on GitHub. And then if I want to produce a paper version for extra money on Amazon or No Starch Press or whatever, I can push the book up there as well. And then I can say, look, if you want to support me, you go buy the book on paper or whatever. I'm a firm believer that technical books should not be written on paper. That's the guy who had pretty much every O'Reilly book ever made. And the reason for that is because it's just such a waste. I mean, because you're going to get a new one in a year anyway. There are some people who are particularly egregious sinners in this regard. Let me show you one. This person. I'm going to show you this person. I'm going to throw Gail under the bus. Gail, this is one of the shittiest books in the world. And it is now considered mandatory. You've got to get the green Cracking the Coding interview book in order to do it. But Gail, who came from Google, she writes all this stuff. She comes up with a new book every year, and you can only buy it in paper. Bye, Gail. I had to buy her book once. I'm never buying it again. I think that is a horrible thing. She doesn't care. She's getting rich off it. I think it's horrible. Not that she's getting rich. I think it's horrible that she's getting rich off forcing her content to only be printed. Period. I think that's horrible. All right. Anyway, we'll do a whole video where I torpedo that stupid ass book that you don't even need. So anyway, furthermore, we have massively increased the power of importing and exporting. This allows us for the first time to create custom the whole point is being able to produce a book as PDF and then give people the option to either donate to you for the PDF, open source, right? So people who have money, they're like, oh my God, I love what you guys are doing. Keep doing it. Here's some money to help you along. That's the way to do it, right? In the sharing economy, that's the way to do it. Not, oh, and by the way, here's a paper copy. If for some reason you insist on having a paper copy, You can go over here and have a paper copy, but you're gonna have to pay for the printing and the paper and the dead tree and all that. And that's the model that I want to do my publishing. So lastly, the tag manager and graph view. See, this is something that has really grated on me. I've known forever that in my Zettelkasten approach, I can actually make a graph view really easily. But I have to write the code, and I don't want to write the code. If they've got one already and it's better than Obsidian and it's Fossy, then we're going to give that a try. Lastly, the tag manager and graph view have received updates, so many things have changed behind the curtain, things you probably won't notice. Migrating from 2.3. That doesn't seem like a lot of huge changes. It seems like basically they're finally at the level where I would consider it, official. I mean, if you don't have a good export and import system, you don't have language tool and spelling support, you're not even really in the running to me. So basically what this is telling me, if this plans out to be true, is that Zettlr 3.0 is finally worth using. That's so mean to say. But when I looked at it before, it looked like beta software. And I was like, I'm not putting my entire knowledge base into this beta software. I don't care how good it is. And by the way, most of the work is Pandoc. So it seems like they're kind of like, riding on the coattails of Pandoc, which is a huge project. It's been around forever. By the way, the guy who invented Pandoc, JGM, is the primary motivator and leader of the Common Mark project. And I actually have had communications with him before. Seems to be a relatively nice guy. He's over at Berkeley. So I was actually proposing to him a simplified form of Markdown. I'm a huge fan of Pandoc flavored Markdown. My Vim Go, in fact, I've written a Vim plugins that have smart quotations and stuff like that are not in the official Vim Pandoc plugin that's maintained by some random Yahoo that I don't want to talk about. So I had to make my own plugin extension because he didn't think smart quotes were worth adding. Fork you. All your open files are closed. Will be closed. Okay, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I am a little bit concerned about the structure of the data changing. So one of the primary concerns I have about any tool is they don't isolate the stuff about the tool from the raw data. My biggest fear with picking up a tool instead of sticking with a specification like I have done for the knowledge exchange grid is I would rather specify this is the format for the data and then let people make tools all over the place, right? So, specifying a format, which I've done, by the way, KegSpec, specifying, the unique identifiers are this is the organization, specifying the actual organization of the data, and in such a way that all of the tools could be used to do that, rather than the tool defining the specification. And that is my single greatest moment of pause for any of these tools. None of them are pushing for a common organization of Zettelkasten data. They're not thinking about it, right? Almost all of them have some form of directories. Some of them have file names that are variations. In my keg specification, you have one directory and you have one all caps readme lowercase .md file per Zettel, period. And that's always the case. And no matter, the thing that's really great about that is I've been talking about keg with people for a lot. And there's a number of people who've written their own tools based on that specification. So they've written their own shell scripts or their own Go code or their, some kind of thing. And because we have agreed on a specification for how that data is going to live, we don't have to be afraid of migrating between versions and stuff like that. So it's a specification not just for the data format itself, the whether it has markdown or front matter or whatever, but it's a specification for how that content is organized. And if we can centralize on a common idea there, and it's already borne fruit because we have a lot of people. And we've had a lot of people build their own tools based on that idea, right? Based on this specification. So I probably am going to keep the keg specification And what I'm considering doing is the reason I'm going to keep going with the keg specification, even if it doesn't get a lot of momentum, is because I do not want to be changing the format of my data all the time, right? I think that's a huge negative. And so I'm going to stick with the keg spec. And I think what I'll end up doing is I will make it, as I've done with everything else, I'll take that standard specification and we'll render it as content that's possible in Zettlr, or we'll render it for a static site generator, or we'll render it for PDF, right? And the other reason I like that too is that I don't have to depend on their LaTeX renderer. So let's say, especially if it's using Pandoc under the hood. If it's using Pandoc under the hood, I'll just render it from the command line and use Pandoc directly. I don't have to use Zettlr for that. So let's go. So we recommend go back to the settings before publishing. Make sure the update process works. So you see this, we've ensured that the update process sure works smoothly. Once again, all these people that are making tools are thinking about the tool, and they're not thinking about creating a common specification, because they're not invested in the idea of a lot of people being able to use it. They want people to use their tool, whether because they want to lock you in like Obsidian, or they just like the way they do things like Zettlr. So that still makes me very leery. The new split view, I don't care about split view. I can't believe you didn't already have that. Dude, you already have split view in VS Code. This is another reason not to use Zettlr, because you've had split view and markdown previewing in VS Code for what, 6 years? So now they're finally catching up by doing that. Another disadvantage. Okay, so I'm going to just spit it out. Why am I using Zettlr to edit my markdown when I can just use VS Code and use markdown straight up with the Pandoc preview? Actually, you don't even need Pandoc preview. There's a Pandoc preview plugin for VS Code, and there is there's just a regular markdown previewer. What am I getting by running yet another Electron application out of here? So let's actually start looking at that. I imagine that this is able to be more specific. It's probably lighter weight. I imagine the grid view is going to be one of the main reasons to do this. Oh, is that what is that? What did I just do? Oh, that's a split view. I don't even know what split view is. Yeah. View the documentation. I mean, I don't know. This is, what is this about? What is that about? I mean, it looks like it's got some other tools here. We're just going to play around. Oh, please, God, tell me you didn't put comments in here. Okay, fine. I guess that's fine. Uniform specification makes it easier for some people. To overdo a specification, I agree. And that's why my spec is like not. It's like so simple. It's so simple. It's like, that's kind of the problem, right? Oh, wait, I accidentally pasted something. I was like ranting about outdoor IRL. Image. Oh, this is inserting stuff. Okay. So split view. Oh, split view so you can see two things at once, I guess. LaTeX guide. Citing in Zettlr, your first citation, split view. Workspaces. Welcome to Zettlr. Why isn't that on the top? Because it starts with a W. We're bad. We're showing render to actual markdown. That's what I was thinking. It's not. It's just a split view. It just shows the same thing. I mean, I guess I'm missing why that's valuable. Some interesting information down here that I can't quite see. It's kind of behind the screen here. Let me bring it over. Yeah, I'm sorry. There's like some stuff here you guys can't see, so I'll move it. Here we go. We've got, what is this? Magic quotes, readability mode. That is not readable. I'm confused. It tells me how many words, but what's a word? Separated by white space. A couple of things I don't like about this. So you see this here? Watch this. This really freaking annoys me. They make you use underscores for italics, and if I do this, I'm going to get an error. Emphasis should use underscore as a marker. I absolutely hate using underscore as anything in my markdown. In basic markdown, I use single stars. I only use stars because it's simpler, and underscores get you into trouble all the time. But in this particular markdown, you have to put underscores, and I'm not a fan of that. I'm not. I mean, I could get behind it if I had to, if everything else was really great. Um, it does have GitHub integration. That's what this is over here. That looks like it does have git commit integration. I'm guessing. Yeah. Um, and the extensive documentation. So if you click on it, it does show you where the link goes. You can actually control click it and it'll open the link, which is kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie, that's cool if you're doing graphic stuff. I don't like underscores for emphasis at all. I don't, and the fact that it's gonna give me trouble every time I do one. I use 1 star for italic, 2 stars for bold, and 3 stars for bold italic, and I've specified that in my what I call keg mark, which is just a ultra simplified version of markdown that doesn't have redundancies so that parsers can do it. So for example, horizontal rules are always 4 dashes so that you can easily go through a data set, that's got all your knowledge in it, and you don't have to second guess. I mean, markdown is actually too expressive. It lets you do too many things, and that can create a real big problem. So yeah. So anyway, we have about this tutorial. We have the singles and the doubles. Call it the file manager. It looks like it's doing smart quotes there in the demos. I kind of like this sort of rendered interactive way to edit. I do like that. Typora has that as well. So I do like that. I like to be able to do this, and I mean, if I'm gonna use my mouse, this is my favorite way to do this kind of thing. I probably have to I probably have to click up here. Wait, no, that's not it. Link. There we go. What is it linking to though? Oh, I had a link in my. Oh wow, that's interesting. I had a link in my paste buffer, and it automatically did it. That's pretty damn cool. Yeah. That's pretty damn cool. I'm not gonna lie. There you go. Unlink. How I want to unlink it? Oopsie. I am super failing right now. I'm just gonna have to go back and type concept. It's doing this little thing where it renders the links too. That's kind of cool. Control Z would have worked better. Absolutely. Yeah. Backticks are working as required. I mean, I do like this as a markdown editor previewer. You can make text in italic, bold and italic. God, look how ugly this is. It's even throwing problems in their own document. Obviously it's not going to care if you use this. If you use stars, it's just going to yell at you. You probably can turn that warning off. I bet you can turn that warning off. I'm guessing, yeah. You can use up to 6, yeah. I actually allowed more than that, but 6 is limited by a markdown. So, lists are created literally, simply write blah blah blah. As a standard markdown list. I've been convinced to do that. Number list consists of a number followed by a dot. Yeah. Okay. Finally, block quotes are written exactly as quoted. As quoted text displayed in emails. Yeah. Also, their elements, footnotes, for instance, hover over. Apparently, they're supporting. It looks like it's supporting the full Pandoc markdown notation. That's what it's looking like to me so far, because footnotes are not supported in standard Markdown. So I don't even know what version of Markdown they support. That's kind of a problem. Like, what is the exact specification of your Markdown? We know that they include LaTeX, but LaTeX is included in Pandoc Markdown, but it's not a part of the Markdown specification. So here's Foston Zettlr. They have, those are automatic. Okay. Zettlr doesn't only support common web links. If I was someone I could, the fact that they're linking stuff automatically because it has HTTPS in front means that they're supporting a variation of GitHub Markdown, which means they're not following Pandoc Markdown, because Pandoc Markdown has to have angle brackets around the any kind of links like this. So they've homegrown their own version of it. I think they're using Remark, which is, we'll have to go read about that, but that's their, I mean, the fact that they're not listing the Markdown specification for use in their tool really worries me, because that is, did I miss it? They're just giving you a quick and dirty on how to use Markdown, but they don't actually tell you how to really use it. That worries me a lot. They should have started by, here's the standard Markdown that we use. Interactive elements. I mean, this stuff is from these like checklist thingies. These are from those are from GitHub Flavor Markdown. They are not supported by Pandoc Markdown, so that is definitely, whatever they're doing, they're following that. They are using multiple pages in the same directory, which is always a problem, because then you end up with names for files that end up conflicting with one another. I don't like doing this, because if you want to put all the resources for a given that go with a given thing, I personally don't like that at all, but a lot of people do this. So they're using a table, and this really makes me want to see what the underlying table is. How do we look at the source code? Can we look at the source? Typewriter mode, distraction free mode. How do I do that? Typewriter mode. What is that? Toggle file manager. How do I look at the Markdown? I can't look at the actual Markdown. Hey. Yeah, I can't look at the actual Markdown here. It's kind of lame. I want to see pure Markdown. I don't want to see your rendered version of the table. I want to see the Markdown. Yeah, just kidding. This is really bad. If I can't see the actual Markdown that this is going to generate, I am not interested. This all by itself, that's enough for me to never use it. I should be able to click on a link and see the Markdown. I should have readability mode. What the hell is that? I don't even understand that. Is that because it just made all the individual sentences into their own thing? What the, I don't. Oh man, if they don't even show me the Markdown, that's so sad. I can't use it. I'll stop reviewing it if that's true. If I cannot see the underlying stuff that's being generated from this through the editor, I am never using it. It has no way for me to actually change the source code. I have to use their stupid GUI or open it up with a terminal or something. No, just no. Just no. Save. Where did I even save it just now? Export. What does export mean? Save. temporary directory, current directory, format HTML. So this is because this is all markdown. This is Pandoc, so that's nothing special. How about I just do it as plain old markdown? Here, GFM, get a flavor markdown plus raw HTML, which is horrible. You should never do that. You should never put HTML on your markdown. You should never put HTML on your markdown because you just made your entire data set, everything that ever uses your data set now has to have full HTML parsing support. No, God. I wanted to like this so much. I really did, but so far this is a big, bad, horrible things. People are like, "Oh, spoiler alert! He doesn't like it after all." What's distraction-free mode? This is distraction-free. You know what would have been better than distraction-free? Showing me the source code. Please tell me this isn't using some like proprietary internal format that I can't get to. Where the hell are these files? Where do they even live? Reveal file in browser. Yay. Okay. Where is this? Documents, Zettlr tutorial. All right, we're going to go there. Well, documents, Zettlr tutorial. They put a space in their directory name. I know it's previewing the MD, but it's not showing me exactly what. There are no less than 5 different ways to do tables. Which way does it do? That's what I want to know. I want to know if it's going to be compatible with the markdown that you know, space in a directory name. It's written in typecast stripes of web developers. Yeah. Well, no, because it's got PDF and LaTeX in it, so I'm so sorry. I already told you that the front matter was a mark against it, right? Why are they indenting their images here? Wait a second. We got to look at this. This is important. Why is there an indent there? And why doesn't it show up here? Okay, is it going to automatically update if I update it here? Okay, let's find that out. Hi, save. Oh, damn it. It doesn't load the changes. How can I have it synchronize the changes? See, that is absolutely mandatory. I just changed the underlying source code and there's no refresh. Maybe there is. Let's find it. Rename file, save previous file, next file, new file, export. It does not know to synchronize with the underlying file changes. That's like, it's really bad. Copy file name, copy UID. I think they have a buffer only writes to the file. If it doesn't buffer the change, I'm not interested. I've got there's like three major strikes against it. 1, I can't see the underlying source code. 2, I can't synchronize the underlying source code with the thing. I have to close it and restart it. Which if I had, no, but I want the thing to automatically fix itself. So if I want to go to Vim for a second because I want to pull content, I want to run my Vim filter and I want to have it run a program and dump that code into my document, which I regularly want to do because I'm a tech writer. Okay, think about this for a second. This is not an unusual expectation. I'm a tech writer, which means that I'm going to be pulling code snippets all the time from the terminal command line. And using this tool right now, you know what I would have to do for that? I'd have to go into the terminal. I'd have to open it up in VS Code or whatever. I'd have to copy and paste the code. I'd have to paste it into the GUI. And then I have to refresh it. Instead of just being able to go in the underlying source code, go into that moment right there, doing a :R, loading up that coding file, putting the coding file there, perhaps even running the coding file and replacing it with its output so I can have that as two separate blocks, and then just going back to my GUI editor and seeing what it looks like by hitting refresh. Can't do it. Can't do it. You can do that with MakeDocs. You can't do that with this. That is a big negative. That's a really big freaking negative. So what happens if I click on it again? Oh, look at that. It reopened the file that I have changed, and it does not know the file's been changed. Are you fucking kidding me? Oh my God. This is shit. This isn't even like production software. I'm sorry. I'm like, oh God, this is so bad. There's no way I would use this. Now I know why I didn't like it before. Yeah. You can set it from 1 star. Nice. But this inability to synchronize with the underlying source code is an absolute deal breaker for me. Because I just told you why. I cannot write documentation about code because I have to fucking cut and paste it from VS Code. So I get that they're probably assuming that people that are using this tool are into GUI tools, and therefore they're cutting and pasting from their VS Code all the time, and they don't use Vim from the terminal. But that's not me. That's not me. And so if that's you, fine. This is probably a great tool for you. But so far, I am never using this. Create a PR for the sync button. Yeah. Now you started with Obsidian, now you just use Vim for your notes. You like it because it preserves text files. Exactly. Exactly. This is what I'm trying to say. Why can't... Okay, I'm not mad. I'm just frustrated. I'm frustrated because I wanted to like it. I really did. I can't even synchronize. How do I even get the source code? Do I have to close the application down? Open file. Wait, what happened? What just happened? Open file, documents, Zettlr tutorial, welcome. It still is opening the wrong one. Oh my God, this is so broken. It's so fucking buggy. Did I not save it? Please God, let it be my mistake and not theirs. Oh my God. This is so broken. This is so freaking broken. Do you see what I just did? Let me do it again. Okay, and if you're watching this, Zettlr team, I love you, but oh my God, really? Okay, watch this. This session is open, okay? And I went here and I said, hey, reveal. I'm going to do it again because this is a bug. This is a huge freaking bug. And I'm going to go to reveal. Where is it? Reveal. What was it? Right click. God, I can't even find it. Copy full path. I guess I could do all of that cool stuff. Where was it? I forgot. Reveal in file browser. Okay, there we go. I thought I saved. I thought I forgot to save it, and so I redid it and I saved it again. Then the reload date from the actual text file. No, but here's where it's broken. Okay, so look. Okay, so here's the file, right? And I double click on the file, and it opens the file, and it says, hey, you already have that file open, and it put hello there. I just opened the file from the file browser, which has changed. I know because here it is. See, it says there, it says hi there. And I'm going to close the file and reopen it. Okay? That file has changed. So I'm going to go reveal file in browser. I double click on the file. It opens it in here and it completely ignores my change. It doesn't even notice that I made a change to the file. You know why? Because they've cached the file and they're like, hey, you have that path already open. And obviously you didn't do anything to the path while it's been open in this tool. So we're just going to show you the one that's not the real thing anymore. That is a bug. That is not some wannabe feature. That is a fucking bug. Like a disastrously bad, never using you bug. You check the properties of the file and check the list properties. Okay. So properties, let's try it. Guide, tutorial, introduction, writing file, words, reset, welcome. Created 3 hours ago, modified 2 minutes ago. No, it's not. Watch, I'm going to close the window again. Okay, here we go. This is a bug. Oh, how embarrassing for the Zettlr team. This is so bad. I'll never use this. I'll never use it. Not until they can get their act together. Look at that. I just clicked on it again and it opened up the wrong thing again. And the tab bar, I see it. I know the star means hasn't been saved, like VS Code, right? So it's opening up one that hasn't been saved. But the point of this is that if I make a change to something on the terminal, so what they want me to do is save it, probably. Right? They want me to probably save it. So we'll click save. All right, save. I just click save. I don't see anything happening. This is broken. This software is shit. This should never have been released. Beware the dotto. Beware the dotto. Beware the dotto. There's like a saying in tech, don't ever use the dotto because there have been so many major changes that they don't even have the base functionality and they didn't even do minimal regression testing. And I just proved to everybody that this software doesn't work, period. It's really cool, but it doesn't work. So stay the fuck away from it. I'm done with my review. Goodbye. That is all I have to say about this. I'm fucking done with it. Until you can make actual software that works and the base functionality like opening and saving files works, I don't want anything to do with you. And you know what? I'm kind of mad because you got me excited, right? You got me thinking maybe this has finally come around. You made a bunch of changes. And the truth is your stuff doesn't work and you didn't do basic regression testing to confirm that it works. And until you do, you've just lost my trust. I'm not using it anymore. Bye-bye. End of review. And I'm going to stop the stream right there so I can restart and get my work done for the day.